What do you do? Like, what's your day-to-day? What line of career are you in?
So
Just
I
out of
work in the
interest.
charity sector.
Wicked.
Can you hear them?
Don't move too much, please.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So I work in the charity sector day to day, and then, as you know, my hobby, I do lots of like animal rights activism. I'm out here today to do some anti-natalist activism. Quite passionate about trying to make the world better, donating money, getting active, that kind of thing.
Awesome, fantastic, very respectable. I really respect that. You do voluntary stuff as well, or is
Well,
like...
this is the voluntary stuff, so I don't get paid to come to Speaker's Corner.
Awesome.
Well, I think everyone should, because it's terrible. I was kidding. No, this is just voluntary stuff. No, it's good fun. I do appreciate debate and this kind of thing. So in terms of volunteering, like the vegan activism and then like anti-natalist activism, just coming out there, putting the word out there, recording some videos for Lawrence Anton's YouTube channel, which you should pay us for, because neither of us is Lawrence either holding the camera or recording. And then one of the things,
him a tripod.
Definitely should.
Poor guy.
Definitely should. And then one of the things I'm really passionate about, which I know is big in Islam, with zakat, like donating money. I'm a big fan of donating money to charity as well. I think that's pretty impactful. This is more kind of fun for me rather than impact. I'm not kidding myself. This is going to be super impactful.
Fantastic. So John, what's your world view about how everything around you has kind of come to be? What position do you hold, and what evidence do you find compelling, and what's your position so far? How would you describe it?
So I'm an atheist, not an atheist in the sense that I'm sure that there is no God, but an atheist in that I'm not convinced by the arguments that there is one. From my understanding of the world around me, the arguments for God's existence don't really hold up. I think that we'll probably go from there. In terms of this conversation I had with some of your colleagues earlier, in terms of objective and subjective morality, I don't believe that there is any objective morality. We only have subjective morality. And it's not that I'm particularly happy about this, that there is no defined right or wrong. I just think we've got to do the best that we've got with the world that we're in. I don't think there's any objective purpose, no objective right or wrong. We just happen to find ourselves here, play the cards that we best we can to do the best that we can, basically.
Why have you opted to be, say, an atheist as opposed to an agnostic?
An agnostic, well, I think an agnostic is a position on knowledge. I probably would be described as an agnostic on a position of knowledge. I don't believe that we ever can know whether or not God exists, because you could invent a God. You could say maybe a God exists that can't be perceived by man or discovered by man in any way, so you couldn't say whether or not that God exists. That's a position on knowledge rather than being unsure whether God or God exists. Again, I'm not sure that God doesn't exist. I'm just not convinced by the argument that any God does.
I would have thought atheism is a position of knowledge and agnosticism is a position of saying I don't know.
No, because a Gnostic is someone who believes, I guess a Gnostic would be someone who believes that you can know either way. And I don't believe that we can know either way. An atheist is someone who doesn't think a God exists, as far as I understand it.
Do you believe that...
Sorry, I thought I heard screaming. Yes.
Do you believe that there could be evidence that hasn't reached you?
Yes.
Or possibly has reached you, but you've misunderstood it or
Absolutely,
misinterpreted
yes.
it?
I don't believe that I've got, I know all the answers by any means. I think the amount of knowledge that we could potentially have compared to the knowledge that we do is very large, so absolutely willing to be convinced.
Okay,
and that's an interesting thing as well, because as I said, we're here for anti-natalist activism.
Yeah.
So anti-natalism is the belief that we shouldn't be bringing new beings into existence, new sentient beings. And I think especially under Islam, you have a really compelling reason not to create new beings, not to have children in particular. It's because if you bring a child into existence, you risk that child burning in a lake of fire forever if they choose not to be a Muslim, or I guess no Jews, if they're not a Muslim at the point that they die, as an adult, of course. And I think that is a very good reason not to have children, because if I have a kid, as I said, there's a chance they would burn in hell.
Nice plug, by the way.
No, thank you. Obviously,
Yeah, I know. I know you got to do your thing.
The channel too.
And that's fine, and we can possibly speak on that if we get a chance as well. So, but the whole obviously argument is predicated on the beginning, and I
don't think so, because with the anti-natalist argument in particular, again, I would say the arguments for not having children as a theist, or at least as a Muslim or a Christian that believes in hell, they are stronger than any argument that I can say as an atheist.
When you're talking about children, that presupposes a conceiving being, a person, an existence. So when you're talking about a being and an existence, the primary question to that being in existence is, how did I get here? Who am I? What am I doing here? So I get.
Hang on, sorry, I think they're all very different questions. So how did I get here would be like a material one. Like what? So what am I doing here? Do you mean like in terms of purpose or?
Yeah. So you've got purpose. Like, what am I doing here?
Yes.
How did I get here? How did everything else get here?
Yes.
These sorts of questions, I would say, are more fundamental than, say, questioning or discussing about, okay, should we bring a child in or not? Because a child is, like I said, it presupposes a person that's obviously going to conceive that child in the first place.
I would personally disagree.
So that's why I think
for the purpose of this conversation, it's better to say that from your worldview, should you have children? From my worldview, should I have children? Because I think in both, I said, if anything, as a Muslim, you have more strong reasons not to have children, so that your kid doesn't burn forever in hell.
I would disagree.
I will say that. One thing, I did have a conversation, I think the channel is called EF Dawah. There's some blokes over there, there are a couple of blokes, it was like three months or so ago. And we talked a lot about where the universe begins, the beginning of the universe, and it kept going around in the same circle, where I would say that I'm not willing to make any, because they'll say, don't you believe that the universe has to have come around in this way, or do you think that this is impossible and this kind of thing? And I'm not confident to make any claims about the beginning of the universe or any claims of anything that happens outside of our universe, because all of my entire understanding of reality, what is or isn't possible, is based upon the things that happen within the universe, if that makes sense. So I see no reason to be confident in claims about what can happen outside of it. What happens before the Big Bang, for example, what caused the Big Bang, I don't know, because that's all stuff outside of our universe, and everything, all of my entire understanding of reality is based within it.
But what you can do is you can make an inference to the best explanation.
But that inference is based upon our understanding of things within this universe.
Of course it is.
So why should my question to you would be, why should any of the rules, any of the logic that happens within this universe necessarily apply outside of it?
We'll get to that. These are all very good questions. So you said, I mean, that's going to be one of the questions. The other question is Islam's position. You're saying strengthens the fact that you shouldn't have kids.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But initially speaking, if I was to ask you out of these options, or you could tell me if there's another option that you think as well, about how the universe came into existence, would you say either it came from nothing, it created itself, or it was created by something or someone?
I mean, the thing is, there could be they could all be options. There could be a whole raft of options that we can't conceive of, because again, I'm really not confident making any kind of material claims outside of the universe. Everything that I understand about existence, about the way that it works, the laws of logic, the laws of physics, etc., everything that we observe is based upon what happens inside this universe. So I don't feel confident to make any claims about what happened before, what caused the universe to come around, anything like that. And that's what we went down with the path with the EF Dawah for like an hour. They were saying, oh, of course, don't you think that this is impossible? And I say, well, I don't know, because I don't feel, for me it feels a bit like, to use an analogy, if you have two fish underwater, they're used to everything being underwater, them claiming that everything outside of the pond is also underwater because everything within their pond is. So me saying that because the world exists like this within, like abides by these rules within the universe, therefore by some logical reason things outside of our universe can or can't happen. I don't think that's a logical claim to make at all. It feels like the two fish in the pond making claims of what goes on outside of the pond based upon what happens inside of it.
Yeah, but those two fish in the pond have very little understanding of what's outside the pond.
I think we have very little understanding of what's outside the universe.
We have more understanding than those two fish in the bowl, because
how do you know that?
Yeah, because of, for example, our powers of observation. We've got telescopes, so we can actually peer outside.
Well, we're peering, that's like the fish looking further into the pond. We are peering further into the the that doesn't tell us anything about what happened outside of it.
Yeah, but I mean, just sticking with the analogy of the pond, a fish would never leave that pond, because for your analogy to work, the fish stay in the pond. They can't see what's outside the pond.
Will we ever leave our universe?
Well, we've left our planet, we've gone to the moon.
But that's like a fish going from one part of the pond to the other. That's not leaving the pond.
So your analogy of the pond is the universe, yeah?
Yes, so the fish live within the pond, like we live within the universe. And if the fish said that therefore everything outside of the pond must also be out underwater because everything is underwater in the pond, I think that would be a daft argument.
Do you believe in the Big Bang?
I do believe in it. From my understanding, I did like A-level physics 11 years ago, and from my understanding, the Big Bang is it certainly was the best explanation at the time as it was taught to me in my physics class. Yes.
Is it something that you adopt as like your part of your worldview?
Not, it's a part of my worldview. Not necessarily a huge part of my worldview, because I tend to, especially when I'm thinking about moral issues, which we're talking about here, like the morals of procreation. Also, an important point for anti-natalism is around eating animals, because if you, by not being vegan, by eating meat, for example, we're bringing all these beings into existence. We're paying for them to be bred into existence, to then suffer and die. We think that's very wrong as anti-natalists. And I tend to make those kind of moral arguments based upon the worldview of the person I'm saying. Based upon my worldview, I wouldn't necessarily say a Big Bang is a huge part of it, in the sense of if they came up with another explanation for the universe, I'd be like, yeah, sure, like, you know, fine. I don't necessarily think it's particularly important. I'd say the lack of a God existing.
Do you believe you exist?
Do I believe I exist?
Yeah.
Yes, based upon my understanding. I'm not sure that I exist, but based upon my subjective understanding of the objective reality of whether or not I exist, I do think I exist. It could all be a big simulation. I could be even mistaken about that.
Then if shouldn't your first point of call be to make sure that you exist?
I don't know how much I can, you say, to make sure I exist. I'm not sure what kind of proof would I need.
Oh, no, you can answer that.
Well, that's true. Like, again, I'm pretty sure that I exist. I think I exist as much as anything else.
What's the little bit of doubt that's left?
That I could be deluded. I mean, we could all be massively deluded. We could all be in the Matrix. Like, we think we're at Speaker's Corner, and really we're plugged in somewhere. Maybe you're plugged in somewhere, and I don't exist. I'm like a video game character. Like, there are those kind of things, and I don't know how we would know whether or not that's the case. So I presume it's not. I haven't seen any argument that it is, but again, I'm not going to say 100% that it's definitely not the case.
So you're saying you've adopted the inference to the best explanation?
The best explanation that I can have, yes.
Based on inference, yeah?
Yes.
You've inferred. Okay, fantastic. So if we take that line of thinking, and again, your name's John, yeah?
Yes.
So John, again, I'm not here to convert you.
Sure.
As I'm sure you're not here to convert me either. You've spoken to the EF Tower guys. We'll have a conversation as well, and we'll try different angles. But again, what I'm not asking from you is to tell me things that are stuck in stone. I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to change your position or whatnot. But all I ask is you just give me just honest answers that you genuinely believe.
Sure.
Because sometimes when people, when some people come, they try to. It's like the whole, you know what? I actually, most likely I don't exist. Now stuff like that, the guy obviously doesn't believe that.
Yes.
If he genuinely believed that, he wouldn't be here.
Yes.
He'd be doing some madness. And you know what I'm saying? Police officer says, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, I don't exist, so it doesn't really matter."
Yeah.
So I don't even really need to answer your questions. You'll be on the news, and you'll be put in a mental institute. So, bearing what little understanding that we have, we just scaffold that so far. So there is existence.
As far as we're aware, yeah.
And philosophers have classified that into three. Contingent existence, which is a dependent existence.
Yes.
A necessary existence.
Yeah.
And impossible existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will, just on this point,
Sure.
I think, and with it, we did this in my physics class. We traced back to not quite the Big Bang, but very shortly afterwards, like a fraction of a second afterwards, and then traced forward from there. So from a fraction of a second afterwards, we think this happened, and then from this many years, this happened, and then, so on, and took us to up until our present day. And everything in that had a cause and effect, like a domino knocking, for example. So this happened, gravity working in this way, again, we're going to butcher the physics, I'm not going to try and explain it, but they tried cause and effect about how the galaxy was formed, etc. And then we ended up, I think they said about like 11 or 13 billion years after the Big Bang, we ended up where we are today. So this is the best explanation that we have. And all of that had cause and effect. But then the thing that I don't buy is when, that's all within our universe, as we agree. I think I don't buy is when someone says to me, particularly a religious person says, therefore that cause and effect must have continued before the universe. And I say, well no, because we need cause and effect according to the laws that govern our universe. I don't see why what happened before then, even if there was a before then, has to abide by the laws that we have here, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm fearing the conversation is going to go, because I'm just going to come back to saying I don't know why the laws that govern our universe have to apply outside of it.
And that's fine, because that's cause and effect. My argument is somewhat similar, but it's an argument of dependency. Yeah, which I think it's going to be very similar to what you've heard.
Yeah.
But just to kind of reiterate it, I'll just summarize it very shortly, just for the viewers as well, which is that we are a dependent existence. We depend on something else that depends on something else.
Yes.
And logically speaking, there cannot be an infinite regress of dependent things. There has to be a logical, rational end to that chain.
And we have that within the Big Bang Theory. We don't necessarily, as in when our universe started. Now, we don't necessarily know that there was nothing before then.
This actually undercuts the Big Bang Theory.
How so?
This is a philosophical argument.
Yeah.
That's more like the Big Bang. The Big Bang is a mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't talk about agency.
Yes.
So, and that's fine. I mean, talking about how things work is fine, but we're talking about why. Why is it this? So that's why this argument undercuts that. It's more philosophical, contingency-based argument. So when you look at us, we're dependent on something else, that's dependent on something else, and it goes on ad infinitum. There's two options here. Either you're conceding that it can go on for infinity, or you're saying logically, rationally, philosophically, there has to be an end to that chain.
So what I'll say is this: we do have a beginning point from the universe as far as we understand it, and that's the Big Bang. Again, as I said before, I'm not going to confidently say that the claim that the contingency, like the dominoes, had to keep going back before the Big Bang. Because as I said before, I'm really not confident to make any claims.
No problem, because look, John,
before then.
even in terms of confidence, you said confidently, I can't even say I exist. So
no, confidently I can say I exist. I can't say 100% confidently.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. 100%. I'm not asking for anything 100%.
Yes.
What we're saying is we're just using inference. We're using rationality, and we're saying, you know what makes the most sense to me.
Okay, but what makes sense to you, I hope you'll agree.
No, sorry, I didn't mean me.
Sorry. What makes sense to me is based upon my understanding that's based within this universe. In the same way that in the fish in the pond, their understanding of reality is based upon their life in the pond.
Okay, I got you.
That doesn't mean, therefore, that any of the conditions within the pond, such as being underwater, therefore apply outside of the pond. Like we know, for example, in the pond example, that there is a world that isn't underwater. It's not all underwater. Similarly, I don't know, I'm not going to confidently say that the laws that govern this universe, such as cause and effect, that necessarily applies outside of the universe, because all of my understandings are based upon what happens here.
Okay, no problem. But again, this universe, let's just say we put it all in one blob. Yeah? All of it we put in one blob. Now that blob, dependent or independent?
What do you mean?
Is it dependent on something? So philosophically, dependency and independency, I'm just going to quickly define it. Dependency implies that something can cease to exist. It's composed of parts, and it can be any other way. Something that's independent is the opposite of that, i.e. it's not composed of parts, can't be any other way, and can't cease to exist.
So can the universe in total cease to exist?
So
I don't know.
So is the universe in totality, is it dependent or independent based on the definition? And I'm more than welcome to repeat it.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't feel confident making claims about the universe. Okay. Especially from the outside, from an external observer of the universe.
Let me continue a bit further and let me know what you think. So the universe itself, if I took the universe, for example, something could be placed in one way. It could be like instead of red it could be blue,
Yeah.
or instead of big it could be small.
Yeah.
And the things inside the universe, they are ceasing to exist. Like people are dying,
Yeah.
stars are exploding, and then there's supernovas, etc., etc. And then this comes into existence.
In the scientific sense, though, with a supernova or with people dying, there isn't really any creation or destruction, really.
You're
It's
saying
just
there's
matter is
energy.
just changing. Yes,
Yeah.
matter is just changing. So the stuff that makes me now, when I die, will be turned into something else.
Right. Yeah. So, but still, the fact that you can have something big as opposed to small, that things can be any other way. Yeah. The parts can be reorganized. Things can cease to exist. As I was speaking to your colleague, she said that, look, if we cease to have kids, then we will cease to exist as humanity.
What we conceive of, the human race, what we think of as the human race will cease to exist. But the stuff that makes up the human race, the atoms that make up the human race, will continue in some other form. Maybe we'll be eaten by animals or turn into plants or something like that, you know?
Turn into a lobster.
Yeah, there's the idea that we are all made up of the stuff from stars, from
Stardust.
supernovas, for example.
Yeah. So you believe that the blob of the universe, does it fall independent or independent?
Well, can the universe cease to exist? I generally don't know. I don't feel very confident making claims about the universe as a whole.
Because if you believe in the Big Bang, then you also probably heard of the Big Crunch as well.
That's one theory, where everything expands and then crunches together, yes. I've heard yes, that theory.
Is that something that you subscribe to?
I don't know. I honestly, I remember we were looking at different options in physics. There was the big crunch, there was the big expansion, it just keeps expanding forever.
Yeah.
Then there was like a slowing down where it slows down the expansion but never fully stops. I don't know on any of them, to be honest.
So
I don't think it's a big part.
So John, when we look at the universe, even if we see it as a blob, the question is, how did that blob come to be? Did it come from nothing? Did it create itself?
Yeah.
Or was there something behind it?
I don't know. As I said before, I'm not going to make any claims about what happened outside of the universe.
I'm not asking you to. I'm saying, what's the inference to the best explanation?
But it is outside of the universe, because according to you, whatever created our universe has to have been outside of it, right? So for me to make claims about what did or didn't create the universe, or even if there is an outside of the universe, I have to step outside the universe to make that. I have to make a claim outside of it. A bit like a fish making a claim outside the pond, and I'm just not going to do that.
But even a fish can make certain claims based upon even the pond itself, isn't it?
Yes, they could say that because of our experience within the pond, everything is underwater. Like, we know that things move in this speed or whatever because everything is underwater.
Even fish can see that there is such thing as no water as well, because they can see above them.
Well, yes, if you there's a fish that can look outside of the universe, we humans can't look outside of our universe.
No, okay, so but the fish itself, they can see that there's such thing as non-water as well.
Yes.
That we have a form of breathing, we need sustenance. And
okay, so in this example, the fish knows that the pond isn't the whole world.
How do you want to keep it? We can keep it as the world of the universe.
In my example, I was saying about two fish in a pond who thought that the pond was everything, if that makes sense.
Okay.
A bit like with us, with the universe. Now, again, there could be stuff outside of the universe. I'm just not going to make any claims. And I do worry that the conversation's going to kind of die as it did with E.F. Dower, because I'm just going to say, look, I'm really not going to make any claims on it, because every claim I make about what could and couldn't be true, what is or isn't possible, is based on my understanding of reality, which is based upon this universe, which started however many years ago. So I'm not going to make any claims about what reality is like outside of the universe, if there is a reality outside of the universe.
Then what do you concede, or what's your kind of final kind of resting point?
I don't know. That's my resting point. When people ask me, did the universe come into existence this way? Did the universe come into existence that way? Are there many universes? Are we the only one? I just come with.
So this is interesting then. So when you say I don't know,
yes,
and then you say I'm an atheist,
yes,
that the atheist position is that there is no God.
Well,
so then surely you should...
I believe that there is no God.
Yeah.
In the same way that I don't know for sure that my parents are my parents. They could have adopted me and not told me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Mm-hmm.
But, I would never claim that I 100% know that my parents are my parents.
Yeah.
And even if I got a DNA test, you could say, oh, well, someone swapped the DNA at the hospital. You could invent a story.
But surely you can say, based upon my experience, you can say, look, based upon my limited experience, my experience in London, my experience with people, maybe, there are people giving birth to rhinoceroses and this and that, and which is fine. But
technically possible, but it seems pretty unlikely based on everything I've heard so far.
Yeah. So I mean, we can come up with these kind of absurdities, and fair enough.
Yes.
But what we can say is, look, I can see, logically speaking, that seeing with my experience things that contain information in a great deal of in a large amount. In my experience, there is a creator.
Yes, in the same way that a fish could say, logically, in my experience, everything is surrounded by water. We're all underwater. We know that's not true, but the fish is like, from my experience in the pond, everything outside of the pond is also underwater. And we would know that's not true. The same way that we would say that everything within our universe abides by certain rules of logic or physics or whatever, and therefore it applies outside.
So John, this is interesting then.
I just don't know why you feel so confident making a claim about what the universe is like outside of our...
I'll tell you why, because when we're talking about logic and reasoning, a person, I would argue that the person is illogical if they believe, and their position is a bit kind of absurd, because what they're saying is, I'm saying that it's the logic and rationality can work outside, like we can extrapolate this further.
Yes, in the same way that the fish can extrapolate that everything's underwater, because everything is underwater in the pond.
No, not necessarily, because what the other person or the other position would be that, you know what, the laws that govern our universe are illogical and irrational.
Not that they are, I mean, I don't think they're illogical or irrational.
That's the only, either they're logical and rational, or if a person says, look, logic and rationality may not necessarily govern our universe, so that leaves the only other option, which is irrationality of...
Not necessarily. Or you just say that the way things are within the pond, like with the fish, they're not necessarily that way outside of the pond.
I'll give you an example.
In the same way that the laws that govern our universe here, they might not necessarily be the case outside of our universe.
Like a squared circle.
Yes.
Yeah? That's a contradiction in terms, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Within our universe, a squared circle is an impossibility.
Do you believe that a squared circle could exist outside the universe?
I'm not going to make any claims about what can and can't exist outside of our universe, because all of my understandings are based upon what happens inside of it.
So based upon your understanding of what's inside, would you say that illogical, irrational things can exist outside?
Well, I don't know, because again, we don't know the rules. Like, it'd be like saying, based upon our understanding of everything being underwater, is it possible that things are not underwater outside of the pond if we're with the two fish? I do worry that we are going in circles here. Like I say, I'm just not going to make claims about what happens outside of the universe. What we can do is we can have a chat, if you would like, about starting, within the universe, like within our universe, and go from there. And then, in particular, interesting to talk about like anti-natalism and creating new beings.
So I guess like within the universe as well. When you see something like a dictionary that has a lot of information in there.
Yes.
Yeah. And from our experience, we see something that has a great deal of information implies a creator or a designer or a writer of sorts.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of something that has a great deal of information that has no designer whatsoever?
Well, it depends what you mean by information, because I don't think that human beings were designed.
Information could be in terms, you mentioned human beings like DNA.
Well, I don't think that some people might think of that as information, but I don't know if it necessarily is information. There's a lot of well, it depends how you define it.
Information in terms of
Joseph is Jesus' father.
Not now, mate.
Joseph is Jesus' father.
Come on, mate. We're having a nice chat. Please respect
Joseph is Jesus' father.
Please respect us.
Jesus' stepfather.
I don't
Jesus
believe in
slaughtered people.
I'm an atheist. I don't believe in Christianity. You're wasting your time here, bro.
You have no knowledge. Okay. I have knowledge from Allah.
John.
Okay.
Allah revealed to me.
Well, enjoy your whoring.
John. Allah revealed to me.
I don't think he's well.
Right.
You're a liar. I am Messiah.
There's another Islamic belief that he's the Messiah.
I don't think he's well.
Jacob is Jesus'
Have a good day, sir. Have a good day.
Okay, so
a few slices short of the loaf, I think it's.
Yeah. What can you say? So when it comes to DNA, like you've got certain stem cells.
Yeah.
They have information, and that information When I say information, I'm just giving you an analogy that it can be used to create an organ. It's got enough data. I mean, a crude simplification would be data.
Yes.
It's got data that can be used to create something, form something. Not too good with definitions, but
you could.
yeah.
Sorry, just go back. Like, I know where this is going to go. It's going to go to like why humans create, because they're very complex. And like, if you saw a brick wall, a human cell is much more complex than a brick wall. I think, again, like with the atheist worldview, you can track all the way back to the Big Bang and like the evolution of the first cell, for example, and then when a single cell organism became a multi-cell organism, you can track back over a very long period of time and look back to how we did end up the way we are. Now, again, it's very, very complex. I wouldn't say it's in any way intelligently designed. Again, something that comes back to the anti-natalist point. We're designed in a way so that we will grow old and die. We're designed in the way that we need water to survive. There are many people who don't even have clean water in this world. There's a lots of ways which, if we were designed very poorly, that for me point to either a cruel God, like a God who designed us to the point where we can like die of thirst or die of starvation, or from my perspective, we weren't designed at all. We evolved in the way that we evolved, and this is the way that we've ended up. Oh, has it run out of battery? Oh no, that's all right. It's a reminder to be fair, I do think we probably should.
Maximum recording time is fine.
Okay, yes, no, we should probably check back in Lawrence. But I will, out of courtesy, I will stay and finish this conversation.
You can take footage from us.
Oh, no, sorry, this is your one. Sorry, no, I will stay for the conversation.
That's fine.
Oh, okay. Sorry
Sorry about that, guys.
That's fine.
Yes.
So just
I do think we need to wrap this. I do need to head off soon, actually, to be fair.
yeah, sure. How long do we have?
What time is it, actually?
About 25 past.
Okay, about 10 minutes, that's right.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'll just tell you the Islamic position. The
Sure.
Islamic position is that Allah or God has given us rationality, has given us logic and stuff like that. And like you rightfully said, we base things upon our experience, but our experience in such a way that we can actually extrapolate that and we can measure it. Like, for example, science. Science is based upon induction. Induction is you do exactly that. What's in your experience?
Yes.
You take that, you make experiments on that, and then you extrapolate that, and then if it holds firm, then it goes up to the level of theory.
Yeah.
If enough people confirm that, then that's what it becomes a scientific fact.
Yes.
So
yes.
similarly,
and of course, with the scientific fact, they're not claiming that they know it to 100%.
Well,
they're saying the best evidence.
They are with evolution. Yeah. I mean, evolution has become to such a degree that even if certain scientists, there was a documentary called "Expelled: No Intelligence Allowed" by Ben Stein. He was saying that certain scientists are actually afraid of actually going against the paradigm of evolution because for fear of being blackballed or losing their job.
No, I'm really against that. Again, that's why I'm here at Speaker's Corner. I'm all about free speech, free expression, free inquiry.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely against that.
So we believe that whether you look rationally, whether you look philosophically, etc., you will see that there is a designer, there is a creator, and our definition of God is very simple. It's four-pronged. It's mentioned in the Quran. It's in like the last few chapters, Surah Ikhlas. Say He is God, the One, the Independent. He does not beget, nor is He begotten, and there's none like Him. So that's our very simple definition of God. And the argument that I was talking about.
That's all right. That's all right. We're all good.
The argument that I was talking about is called the contingency argument, which is that if we look at ourselves, we're dependent, and when you extrapolate that, you can't have an infinite regress of dependent things, and that's why you've got philosophers like Leibniz, Kant, Aristotle. They didn't have an issue with the end to that chain philosophically.
Yes.
But
Leibniz believed in like a first mover, I think was the...
that was Aristotle.
Aristotle was the first mover.
So they had different concepts of what that initial thing it was, but then that's typically...
who pushed the first domino, basically.
Yeah, or what that domino is, like what's the characteristics. And then obviously we would argue that first being has to be independent, has to have will, power, intelligence, etc., and we would obviously obviously have continued that conversation. But then the question arises that because that's our definition of God, that God would want to impart His wisdom upon us, because had He not, then people that believe that they are divorced from God, naturally it's very chaotic, it's very lonely, it's very saddening, and when you see things happening that give a view of chaos, then it seems like maybe what is going on, like we need to take control of this. But ultimately, of course, we believe that the control is in God's hand. The world is a test, but how do we know world is a test? Because I'm being very brief.
Sure.
So with the books of the various religions, what you do is you analyze the claims of the books. You analyze, number one, the preservation, which of the books are preserved, which of the books have the prophecies that can actually be proven, that can actually be measured. Are there any historical things that, as a skeptic human being, that I can check that which book? Because it's all well and good saying there's various books, but there's various shampoos, but you're still only going to use one shampoo.
Well, not me, I'm bald, which is why I've got a thick hat on.
I wouldn't have known. So even with that with the shampoos, there's a degree of research that you have to do. Same with the books as well. Yeah. That just because there's various books doesn't mean that you become paralyzed with
all of them could be wrong apart from one. One of them could be true.
Yeah. So when you're looking at truth, obviously truth implies the singular, and that can be discussed and debated, and you analyze the books as has been done, and that's why you see. In the UK, it seems that the one that's making the most sense to the people statistically is Islam, because the fastest growing religion in the UK is Islam.
Is that due to birth rates though, like Muslims having more children than other groups?
Not necessarily, because it's actually to do with conversions as well. Mosques have their statistics and they do their consensus, and you see in the park as well. Just using this small sample.
That's true. But there are also Muslims who are afraid of leaving because of the punishments for apostasy, the social ostracization as well. There are apparently a lot of Muslims, and I know some actually personally, who have left Islam. They're apostates, but they're afraid to say it because they'll be persecuted by their family, and if they're in a country, say like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, for example, they're worried about being persecuted by the government as well.
Not necessarily. The same can be said about Sikhs as well. I've met some Sikhs, I've met some Qadianis. They've said the same thing.
And Christians. I used to be a Christian. I've definitely met Christians who stopped believing but were worried about the social cost of leaving.
Yeah, and of course, if you're part of a family, you're part of a community, and you leave that community and that faith, you're going to feel ostracized.
Yes.
That's with any kind of ism or schism.
But Islam does call for it, though. It calls for the death of apostates under a caliphate. It says that under a caliphate, if they rule that an apostate who leaves Islam and criticises that they should be put to death, and that does lead to obviously the cultural attitudes as well, where people are afraid to be honest about their...
Not necessarily, because even if you look within liberalism as well, you look within the laws of Kant and Locke, even John Rawls as well. They say even within the frames of liberalism, there's in fact I think it was John Rawls or Kant who said that if the ruler says stand in front of a cannon, you stand in front of a cannon.
Yes.
So and even Mosaic law, Locke or Kant, I forget which one, they said the apostasy within the law of the Mosaic law.
Is this a tu quoque fallacy? Is this saying that you as well? So Muslims call for
not necessarily
death of apostates. Some liberals call for death of people who go against the political order. Are you saying that?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because anytime the word apostasy or the leaving of the religion gets brought up, Islam is the primary religion that it gets brought up for.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that if you are to talk about the morality of apostasy, then you should talk about it holistically and not single out a religion.
That's fair. I'm obviously talking to a Muslim.
No, I get that.
And with a Christian, I'll talk about Christianity. I guess it's really important for anti-natalism as well, about having children, is that from my perspective, obviously you're bringing these children into the world, and according to Islam, this child, if they leave, because would you agree that there are good people, there are well-intentioned people who are not Muslims, like 3/4 of the world, there are still nice people out there?
Yeah, of course,
Muslims. So one of these people could be someone who's born in an Islamic family. They choose to leave Islam, and according to Islam, because they've left, they're going to be killed in this life under the caliphate, not like as a vigilante, but under the caliphate, and then burn in hellfire forever. I think that is an extremely wrong thing to do. And if I'm a parent, if I'm a Muslim parent, and I'm thinking about whether or not to have children, and I think, well, if my child leaves Islam, they're going to be persecuted in this life and burn in hellfire in the next.
You've said
that's a very strong incentive for me not to have children.
You've said that a couple of times and categorically as well. So I'm forced to ask, like, where have you got this position from?
Sure.
That if you because this is the one criteria that you've given. If you leave Islam under a caliphate, you're going to be put to death. Like,
and I'm burning in hellfire is pretty.
Yeah. So where have you got that from? Like,
from Islamic teachings.
Yeah, where? Because I haven't come across it.
You don't believe in hell?
No, I don't believe that of what you're saying, that there's a blanket rule that if you're under a caliphate and you leave Islam, you can be put to death.
No, not a blanket rule, but it's my understanding that...
Because you said that like a couple of times.
I spoke with Ali Dawah before. There's a video of me speaking with Ali Dawah where he defends it. I know the Mohammed Hijab have said it as well. They say that in an Islamic country and an Islamic caliphate, someone who leaves Islam and criticises the religion openly, and I think in Ali Dawah actually named public ex-Muslims, and he said that they should be killed. So he was very... and he said, we're proud of that, very proud of the fact that ex-Muslims will be killed under the caliphate.
Well, I'm not Ali Dawah.
No, that's fair. Do you think that do you disagree?
I'm not Ali Dawah.
Do you think that Ali Dawah is incorrect?
I'll give you the position. I'll give you an example or a case study of a caliphate, the Ottoman Empire.
Well, yes, where they were deported, but in the same way that I would like.
So you're aware of that, isn't it?
Yes. Because Mohammed just brought it up.
Yeah.
But you want the whole world to be Muslim, right?
So what do you think about that? That in the Ottoman Empire, somebody that left the faith was not put to death.
Well, I'm glad they weren't killed, but they were deported. But the thing is...
No, but you brought it up a couple of times. You said that leaving the faith under a caliphate would mean you're put to death. But this is a case of somebody not being put to death.
There won't be that option in an Islamic world, unless people were like deported to Mars.
But that was an Islamic empire, the Ottoman Empire.
Yes.
And Vava Nam was deported.
Well, I'm really, really glad that they were killed.
I'm glad you're glad, but your premise was that if you're in a caliphate and you leave the religion, you will be put to death.
Yes.
I've given you an example, and you're aware of this example where a person was not put to death.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand how do you reconcile this with your statement that you're going to be put to death?
Because when I said to Ali Dawah, but in the
can you not bring? I want to know what John thinks, and I want to know, because you made the statement. I want to understand what you think. Ali and hijab. Look, kudos to those brothers. Yeah. But I want to understand how you reconcile this with your statement.
Well, my statement is from speaking with Muslims, like Ali Dawah and Mohammed Hijab. But from speaking with Muslims, they tell me that if the whole world was under a caliphate, which is what they want the whole world to be governed by Islamic law, there won't be anywhere for ex-Muslims to be deported to, and in which case they would be put to death if the caliph determined it to be the case. Again, not vigilante justice, but if the caliph determined that this was to be the case, they would be put to death. And again, this goes to the anti-natalist point. If you're a Muslim, your parent, your child could leave Islam one day, and then to be persecuted in this life and burn in hellfire in the next. A very strong reason.
How would they be persecuted? I'm failing to understand that if a person leaves the religion in London, how are they going to be persecuted?
Well, I mean, Hatun Tash has been stabbed in the face at this park. So she left Islam, came here, criticised Islam.
Hatun Tash
has been stabbed in the face.
No one has verified that Hatun Tash was a Muslim before. There's absolutely zero evidence that's credible to say this. So I'm curious to, like, why do you think she was a Muslim before?
Because she says she was.
Okay, if I say I was a chocolate biscuit, does that make me a chocolate biscuit?
No, but you tell me you're a Muslim, I take you at face value. She tells me that she was a Muslim, she's now a Christian, I take her at face value.
What you're doing is you're coming and you're representing a cause, and
the cause of anti-natalism.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this is a cause. So you're going to be speaking and engaging with a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a cause. So I think if you are an average Joe, for you to take things at face value, okay, fair enough. But because you have a team, you have an objective. I don't think it's sensible for you to just take, because X said this, therefore the whole of the religion believes this, because Y said this, therefore she was I don't think that's...
It's from my conversations with Muslims, and that's the...
Yeah, but I don't think having a conversation with a Muslim implies that that's the teaching of the whole of Islam.
Well, I'm interested in the religion as it's practiced by people and what people believe in. As I said before, when it comes to anti-natalism, I will have to go after this, sorry.
Of course, of course.
When it comes to anti-natalism, my starting point isn't to go up to them and say, you need to believe, you need to be an atheist like me and go from there.
No, but
whatever their worldview
but your point
is,
was that, but your point was that, look, they, as a Muslim, you believe they'll go to the hellfire and this will happen.
Well, many Muslims do believe this, would you agree?
Believe what?
That if they, the Muslims I've talked to today, I mean, you might be different, sorry. I'm just going over what people are telling me, is that if their child leaves Islam, then they will go to hell.
If a person
burn in the lake of fire.
Yeah, of course we believe that there's a hellfire and you will burn in the hellfire as well.
A really strong reason not to have a kid is because your kid might be the one going to hellfire. Now, my kid is not going to be any chance of going to hellfire because I'm not going to create them. Whether that's the Islamic hellfire, the Christian hellfire, some other hellfire if there is one.
But you know what?
I'm not risking my kid going.
John, as a human being, that's a very sad way of living one's life.
How so?
I'll tell you. Because if you believe that, you know what, let's just say you have a friend, and you're like, I want to protect that friend from this problem and that strife and this harm. You're going to keep them in a cotton wool. You're gonna smother them, frankly. Yeah, you're not going to allow them from going out, from experiencing life and existence. That's exactly what you're doing. You're taking control of life, which is actually not in your control. You actually can't, even if you use contraception, John. Sorry, even if you use contraception, you can't control life. If life is going to happen, it's going to happen. Do you agree?
No.
How are you going to stop it?
If I choose not to have sex again, then I'm not going to have any kids.
No,
if I choose not to donate, there's not going to be.
Not necessarily. So there's possibilities. There's kids here.
Sorry.
So whose kids are these?
My little brothers.
Your little brothers, because the conversation's a bit.
No, sorry, yes, we can steer away from it. I didn't mean to take it that direction.
Nice to see you guys.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take it in that direction. But you know what I mean? Like,
No, I get you. I know it wasn't deliberate. I can tell from, but they've gone now.
Sorry, yes.
So there's ways of having kids without having sex.
Yes, but I mean, I would have to unless someone stole my sperm from me in my sleep.
No. There's ways that even if you're doing foreplay, which of course you believe that there's an attraction.
If I never did any of that, I never touched a woman again. Well, I never went to a sperm bank. I never did IVF. None of that.
Is that what you're committed to?
I'm not saying that I am personally committed to that. It would be a lonely life.
John,
it would be a lonely life. You are correct.
Practice what you preach, mate. Come on.
No. I am practicing what I preach and not having children.
No, but would you never go near a woman to make sure that never happens and you don't bring a child that's going to burn in the hellfire? Or, he could potentially accept Islam and surely you would want to stop that.
Well, no, but if I did accept Islam, then they might burn in the Christian hellfire as well. But no, honestly, it's been a really good chat. I do need to head off now.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. What's the name of the channel, sorry?
So, this is probably going to go on there's all these channels, Sam Dawah, Dawah to Soul, Smile2Jannah Extra, there's a few of those.
Sounds good. Lawrence Anton, this is going to go on. Even though neither of us are Lawrence.
Lawrence Anton,
we should be getting some of his ad revenue. But no, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care, John. John, I'll just give you another handshake and I'll take that off for you, don't worry.
Perfect.
Take care.
Have a good day, guys.
Sound good, brother. Are you alright? Sound good, Habibi. You okay?
Big fan from America.
MashaAllah. Where?
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
My brother's from Washington.
Yes, sir.
Alhamdulillah.
Appreciate all the dawah work you guys are doing and making it clear for the younger generation like myself. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of scholars in America too, but it's not like how you guys have it out here. It's very raw, you know what I mean?
Alhamdulillah, it is.
People are blessed here, So I guess it's trial and error. A lot of the youth, back in the days got lost, and this is the results, the fruits,
Who knows, bro?
Right?
Dua of our parents, who knows?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But America, we're in the process of trial right now, you know what I mean?
That's right. Subhanallah. How are you finding it? First time at Speaker's Corner?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I watch a lot of videos, so it's, I kind of knew what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
It's really cool, We don't have anything like this over there.
Alhamdulillah.
I mean, there's freedom of speech, but it's nothing like this.
Thank you, brother. You're the only one that takes all of them, bro. Allah bless you.
Which one is your one? Is that your one?
Yeah, these are. Yeah, sorry, I had to because we.
اسم عندك روبوت تقول اسمه مسير تقول مسير يعني ما عندي مسير ما عنده قرار ما عنده قرار يعني خيار يعني حصل عندهم قرار ايه عندهم قرار يرفض ايه نعم ايه معناته الله عنده القدره يجيب شخص مخير لا وين صوت الكريم الله شيبون الله شيبون الله شيبون انا عديناه السبيل اما كافر واما شكور ايش هاي ايش هاي
زيشان Z, you took your mics, yeah?
Yeah. Pack up now, innit?
هاي تسيير مسيرين في هذا ايه بس مخيرين في انا مفهموني عقلي احسن جاوب جاوب التفكير وما معنى اللسان يوم القيامه انت مسير انت مسير
They don't. They just finished. Oh,